I'm at French Prairie Perennials in Aurora with Rick, and Rick, you know, we've come through this tremendous winter, my gosh, and you could see plants that just didn't hold up, but you really have some buzzwords for us about plants that would make it much better through the winter.
Exactly. I mean, there's two things that you can do with dwarf conifers. One is that, you know, you'll have the color year round, but also you have a very durable plant that's going to handle the cold temperatures much better, and it's also going to hold the snow load and the ice load that much better than you have on some of your herbaceous plants.
Right, and you don't sacrifice anything. I mean, this collection of conifers and some little ornamental grasses here are just tremendous, and you really get lower maintenance, you said, and look at all the color that lasts 12 months a year.
Right, exactly, and the different textures that you can get if you use them in the right combinations.
Beautiful. So let's start with this tall weeping plant. What is that?
This is Cupressa glabra Raywood's weeping, which is a weeping Arizona cypress. Very, very narrow growth habit. How big it gets depends on how big your stake is. So if you don't want it to get too big, you just kind of let it do its own thing and just kind of let it grow down. If you want it to get taller, then you take the central leader and just kind of stake it up so it gets a little more height to it.
Perfect.
But it's a beautiful plant, has that bright blue color year round, but very, very narrow, like maturity like 2 feet wide.
Oh, so it's nice for small spaces.
Absolutely.
And then this golden one down here.
This is a very slow growing oriental spruce called Firefly, and a 2 to 3 inch a year grower. Very even growth habit like that. It'll eventually end up with kind of a cone shape to it, but always has that very bright color to it. And also gets a little bit of a pollen cone on it in the spring that has a lot of interest too.
So maybe even for a container?
Absolutely.
Great. And I love the color and texture on this one.
Yeah, this is Abies Coreana Silver Show, which is a little bit different. It's not the typical Korean fir that people think of as silver lock, which is kind of its sister plant. Silver Show has a much showier cone than silver lock has, and also has a tendency to grow just a little bit slower than silver lock does.
Oh, that's a nice thing.
But yeah, but it continually has this very unique kind of rolled foliage in the bright silver color year round, and then the cones are a very bright purple in the spring.
Ah, beautiful. And I know this is really kind of almost like a rare plant. You don't see them too often.
Yeah, I love to use this plant a lot because it has a really unique texture to it. This is Cherryman. It's a Honoka Cyprus, blue-green color, but the cool thing about this plant is when the new growth comes out, you can see it down here where it'll get kind of this gnarly look to it, and that's where your new growth comes out.
Oh, cool.
And it's a really interesting plant, but the main thing is the texture is something you don't see in nature a lot.
No, not at all, and very narrow growing.
Right.
Again.
Right.
Very nice. And then we have some other pretty ones over here.
Yeah, we've got a couple. This is another Korean fir, but this is a very, very slow growing compact Korean fir called Icebreaker. So it still has that bright silvery kind of white foliage, but this plant only grows about a ½ an inch a year. So it's good for containers, but it's also good in the garden because it's in a smaller space. It's not going to outgrow the space very quickly. And then also because of the texture and the color, and used in coordination with some other different textures and colors, it's a very, very bright plant.
It is pretty. It's pretty against this all green and then against this gold, which is another favorite of yours.
Absolutely. Goldilocks, which is a Honoka Cyprus. Again, a more narrow growth habit, not nearly as narrow as Raywood's weeping, but very intense kind of yellow, blue-green, or I'm sorry, yellow lime green color in the summer, and when it gets fully grown, it gets more full, more full of a full look to it, kind of a cone shape to it. It's a really nice tree. It's one of my favorites.
And what I love about all these is, like you said, it's low maintenance. So really no heavy pruning. If something's kind of way off there, you just kind of give that a prune back, watering, a little fertilizer, and you're good to go?
Most of these plants are pretty drought tolerant. So
nice.
Don't have to spend a lot of time with that. And the other thing is when something grows 2-3 inches a year, pruning is not necessarily something you need to worry about. So.
Right. Well, you know, there's all kind of nice plants over here, and talk to Rick about how to get them over into your garden. He's down in Aurora now, so you can go to gardentime.tv. We'll click you over their website and get all the directions and come out and see these beautiful plants. Thanks, Rick.
Thanks, Judy. Appreciate it.